Apple quietly updated its 15-inch MacBook Pro line earlier this summer with improved keyboards, 6-core processors, and finally an option to have 32 gigabytes of RAM on these devices. What we're going to look at today is the 15-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar and all of the controversy around it, whether it's a gimmick or if it's actually useful. Make no mistake, the MacBook Pro is a beast of a machine, but you have to keep in mind its price and what you're getting for that price. Many people would strongly disagree with Apple's pricing. For example, if you want to beef up your MacBook Pro and get a whopping 4 terabyte of very fast SSD, it will cost you $3,400. No, that's not even including the price of the machine. That's just to upgrade the storage. You see what I mean? Anyway, we're going to take a really in-depth look at the MacBook Pro and see whether or not you should consider getting one, or maybe look at the cheaper MacBook 12-inch or MacBook Air. Hit that intro.
It's the kind of beat to go.
So I decided today to do this unboxing outside. You know, it's a beautiful Georgia day. It's about 60 degrees and I just wanted a bit of a change of scenery. And my studio lights are kind of acting funny, so that's another reason why I did it outside. Now, I do hope two things. People have said before that I do talk pretty loud, so I really hope my neighbors don't call the cops on me. And second, I do kind of live in the hood, so I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can because I don't want my ass to get robbed. Anyway, 2018 MacBook Pro. So these actually quietly got updated in the middle of the summer, and so now these are going to rock a 6-core i7 processor. This is in space gray, and it is going to also include your touch bar. Now, a lot of people say the touch bar is a gimmick, but I don't really think so. I find it kind of useful. But here are going to be your specs, kind of just highlighting some of them. 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, a Radeon Pro 555X, which actually I'm a little upset. They actually just secretly, discreetly upgraded the graphics card on the MacBook Pros as well, and I wasn't able to catch that. But I don't really need that great of a graphics card either way. Let's go ahead and dive right into the unboxing. So I couldn't find a knife again. I don't know where my mom's hiding them, but I do have this machete, so that should do the trick. All right, let's go ahead and pop this sucker open. What? There we go. Like butter. Now this is actually a heavy box, believe it or not. And now the suspense. That space gray color is really nice, so I'm not gonna lie. So we have our little tab here to easily just lift it out of the box. We're gonna move that out of the way for right now just to look out for what's inside. So inside, as is typical with all of your MacBooks, we're gonna have our Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 3 port. And as you'll see on the MacBook, it doesn't have a lot of I/O. So when the MacBook Pro first came out, it was heavily criticized for not having, you know, an SD card slot, a USB 2.0 slot. All you're gonna have is Thunderbolt, and that's about it. So if you are, say, like a DJ or a photographer, get ready to carry a lot of dongles with you. All right, so we do have our instruction booklet in here, and it's pretty typical, pretty standard. We're gonna have how to use our MacBook, warranty information, white Apple stickers, and that's it for the documentation. And we are also gonna have our power brick right here. And this is going to be the 87 watt adapter. So again, if you do want to quick charge your iPhone, you'll be able to do this as long as you also have the USB 3 to Lightning cable. All right, so let's jump right into the MacBook Pro. So this is going to be the go-to laptop for professionals, but not only for professionals. If you're simply just going to be on your laptop doing a lot of extensive work, you know, students, DJs, photographers, video editors, it's great for everyone, especially with that touch bar that's included here. The majority of people don't like it, but it is very useful. So that way, your hands just stay on the keyboard and it never has to go to the cursor that we have to point at things. It's everything is just right there at your fingertips. So anyways, let's peel off the plastic. And here we have our updated MacBook Pro in space gray. So let's go ahead and take a tour. So we're gonna have our Apple logo right there, non-glowing Apple logo. It's more of a reflective Apple logo there. Here we're gonna have our ventilation, of course, because at times this MacBook Air is gonna sound like a jet plane is taking off. 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports there. Here we're gonna have our little hinge to help us open the computer. Over on this side, we're gonna have another set of Thunderbolt 3 ports and our headphone jack. So I'm really glad that they left that around. And on the bottom, we're gonna have a lot of screws and our 4 feet to stabilize it, actually. And there we are. And so now for those people that are really concerned with performance, and you should be, when you're spending all this money, upwards of $2,000 for these machines at times, you really need to figure out what each computer is going to do. Now I know the lime green reflection over here, that's my house. Why my parents painted the house lime green, I really don't know, just try to ignore it. So up on the left, we're gonna have the 12-inch MacBook Air, and then the MacBook Pro on the right. And so we're gonna do a Cinebench test on all of these and just see what the OpenGL score, just to see how the graphics card and the processor is gonna perform, to give you an idea of how powerful each of these devices is. Afterwards, I'll also do a Geekbench score as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the OpenGL test. And here we have our scores. Now, as you can see, the 12-inch MacBook first actually needed to take some pre-workout before it could actually get its pump, and it took forever to even get started. But the MacBook Pro is gonna destroy the rest of these, which gives you an indication that if you want to video edit, or if you're looking to game, even though MacBooks aren't really meant for gaming, you need to pick up the MacBook Pro. Check it out. OpenGL on the MacBook Pro is 92.25 frames per second. Second place, all the way down, is going to be 36.65 frames per second on the MacBook Air. Horrendous. I mean, you can see the huge step down. And then on your 12-inch MacBook, you have 23.84 frames per second. So really, really, really bad. All right, let's go ahead and get started on the CPU test on all of these. Just quick thing to note here, the MacBook Pro already finished. So let's see how else these are gonna perform. All right, and finally we're done. Usain Bolt over there just has no chill and just left these 2 other dudes behind. CPU score over there on the MacBook Pro, my God, 1021 compared to a measly 288 and 264 over here on the 12-inch MacBook. That's insane. So that kind of just already paints a very vivid picture for you when it comes to performance with the MacBook Pro versus its other little brothers. As a matter of fact, this kind of reminds me of Little Bear, Mama Bear, and then Papa Bear. Like, damn, over here just destroying the competition. And so now we're gonna do our Geekbench test. So what the Geekbench test is gonna do is it's gonna test the processor inside both in single core and multi-core. Now keep in mind, this is now an updated 6-core i7. So I anticipate the multi-score on the MacBook Pro to be just insane and just blow these 2 out of the water. So let's go ahead and run these tests. So here we go. This is exactly why the MacBook Pro is just so popular. It is just so powerful. In between the single core scores, it's not that big of a gap. We have 3600 on the MacBook 12-inch, 4200 on the MacBook Air, and then 4900 on the MacBook Pro. So most of your single core tasks are easy on all of these devices. So your Word documents, browsing the internet, looking at YouTube videos, every single one of these is going to be able to handle that pretty well. Now, when you have multiple tabs open, when you got a Word document, when you're listening to YouTube, when you're browsing on Facebook, and you're doing everything all at once, as well as downloading and streaming, say on Netflix, that's where your multi-core is really going to come into play. MacBook 12-inch 6800, MacBook Air 7800, and then on your 15-inch baseline model, MacBook Pro, a whopping 21,000. It's just insane how powerful this is, and that is thanks to the 6-core processor that's now found in the MacBook Air. So this is why everyone just leans towards the MacBook Air, because this starts in at about $1,200. That's going to start in at roughly about $2,200. So for $1,000 more, when you're already spending $1,200 on this one, I would say just save up for one of these two, especially the MacBook Pro if you're going to be using your computer all the time like I do. And finally, just a little extra one here. My Brody was actually able to let me borrow his MacBook Pro. So he has the MacBook Pro that's configured a little higher. It has double the storage on the SSD over here, a higher graphics card, and as well as a better chipset in here with higher turbo boost. So comparing now these two together, this is your baseline model coming in at about $2,300. This one comes in at about $2,800. So you're spending $500 more over here on upgraded internals. Now keep in mind, that's halfway to a house payment, my guy. That's a decent car right there, right here in this MacBook Pro. So investing in one of these machines is definitely going to be a huge investment. So you have to know very well what you're getting yourself into when you purchase these devices. Baseline model on the left, we're going to have 92.25 frames per second. On the upgraded one over here is a 96.88 frames per second. On the CPU side, we're going to have 1021 versus 1046 here. So it isn't that substantial of a difference, but a difference nonetheless. So you guys that are out there DJing, photographers, video editors, YouTubers alike, you guys really should go over here to the upgraded one if you want the better performance. I did also run Geekbench scores on these as well. Single core is 49. This one crossed the 5,000 threshold. So this is going to be able to handle everything you throw at it almost flawlessly. As a matter of fact, this one is going to be more powerful than most, if not all, of the iMac desktops that Apple has to offer right now. Multi-core score is going to be 21,900 over here on the baseline and 22,000. 15 points away from 23,000 on the upgraded one. There you have it. These are all going to be your Geekbench scores. Alright my dudes, let's first start off by looking at the design of the MacBook Pro. No doubt, the MacBook Pro is not only sexy, but it's a sexy beast. It is going to have the exact same design as the 2016 and 2017 MacBook Pros, so there's no change there. We have our large trackpad, which is one of the biggest reasons I prefer MacBook over Windows laptops. The trackpad is just so precise and so easy to use. The aluminum chassis just feels right. It definitely makes the MacBook feel like a high quality product. We as well have our improved 3rd gen butterfly keyboard, which is now quieter and is supposed to help the whole keyboard death issue Apple has had in the past, especially with the 2017 MacBook Pro, where keys will just simply become unresponsive. On each side, we have 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which I think is one of the most bogus things about this laptop. Dongle central. Like, you can't even charge your phone on this computer without a dongle, because Apple gives you your lightning cable with the USB type A connection, you know, the block your one, and this is USB-C. So that blows. We also don't have an SD card slot, and I know so many people who would love for their MacBooks to have the SD card slot as part of their hardware. Video editors and especially photo editors will have to fork over even more flow on top of the already high asking price for their laptop. I don't know, I feel like Apple could have done better in the I/O department, to be honest. On the right, we're gonna have the coveted headphone jack. Hell yeah, at least they kept that around. I'm so happy Apple decided to keep the headphone jack. I know plenty of people who DJ or produce music in general and always need their Beats or Studio headphones plugged in. Lastly, it's really hard to miss, but of course we have this OLED strip here at the top. This is a touch sensitive bar that you can use to interact with many different applications on your MacBook Pro like Safari, Final Cut, or Word. I'll touch up on the touch bar later because I feel it needs someone to defend it. Poor little touch bar gets too much heat, for real. Oh, I forgot to mention the MacBook Pro comes in 2 finishes, silver and space gray. It only weighs in at around 4 pounds. The MacBook is very sleek and compact, and it is one of the things I love about it. And like I said, it's just good to look at. Moving right along to what you actually look at while on your MacBook Pro, the display. As expected from Apple, we have our beautiful 13.3-inch Retina display, 2560 by 1600 native resolution at 227 pixels per inch, which translates to just a gorgeous looking display. Unless your eyeballs are like 1 centimeter away from the screen, there's just no way you'll be able to see any pixels. What's cool about the 2018 MacBook Pros that got updated is they now feature True Tone technology. True Tone is what you'll find on your newer iPhones, where the white balance is corrected depending on where you are. The screen may turn bluer or warmer without you even noticing it. It actually happens automatically. While I myself appreciate this feature, some people like photographers might not, since photographers will more than likely want their pictures and colors to stay consistent. Any change in colors may distort or confuse the photographer's work, so keep that in mind. Luckily, True Tone can be disabled in system preferences. On one last note about the screen, it's pretty bright. I hate waking up first thing in the AM and getting my MacBook Pro to scroll through the latest memes on Twitter and my eyes almost burn off because my dumb ass forgot to lower the brightness. The max brightness is 354 nits. I know it's not the brightest, but it is a bit higher than the average 307 nit brightness on other laptops. Oh, Apple, so much controversy pertaining to your keyboard. I don't get it. I love the keyboard. See, thing is, it all comes down to preference with this, honestly. Some people prefer to push down 5 meters on their keys because they get that satisfaction or whatever, and then there's people like me who prefer the least travel possible. This keyboard is as flush with the chassis of the MacBook, and I love that. I'm able to type so quickly and the keys are so responsive, it's kind of like a trampoline for my fingers, you feel me? Without thinking, my fingers already bouncing off to the next key, but hey, again, it's all down to preference, so don't hate. So all the heat Apple got was because of the keys getting stuck. What you have to understand is the mechanism behind the keys is different than your traditional scissor mechanism found in the majority of other laptops. What would happen is sweat or dust or Cheeto Puff crumbs would fall onto the keyboard and get trapped under the keys, thus rendering that key useless and unresponsive. Apple kind of corrected it with the MacBook and now made them quieter, and a teardown from several YouTubers have found that there's now sort of a silicone membrane surrounding each key, so that should help with the problem of dust creeping inside. Right underneath, you will find the beautiful glass trackpad. Hands down, the best trackpad ever found on any computer. That coupled with the software, it's just so easy working on the MacBook Pro. The trackpad is big and super responsive. You can adjust the settings to make your clicks firm or clicky, 2-finger swipe scrolling, 2-finger press for right click, 3 swipes to move across your desktop, 5-finger flick in to bring up the search. Like, it's really so many gestures and it takes about a day or two to get the hang of it, but when you do, boy, it's like jello. Man, you're gonna love it. We also have Touch ID just like in the new MacBook Air, so it's really awesome to easily be able to unlock your laptop with just your fingerprint. Audiophiles will definitely adore the internal speakers the MacBook Pro has to offer. Whether you're into deep underground rap or some mosh pit inducing heavy metal music, the speakers are marvelous. Here we can see how good they just really are. Now, of course, moving on to probably the most important aspect of the MacBook Pro, the specs and power. Under the hood, the MacBook Pro packs a really mean punch and blows most of its other MacBook siblings out of the water. The Pro moniker really lives up to the hype here. Take, for example, the MacBook with the i9 chip and the 32GB of RAM, which of course did come with its own bit of controversy, with what the internals of the MacBook basically boiling because the MacBook chassis became too hot and thus severely downthrottled the performance, but that's another video for another day. I love using my MacBook Pro for editing. As a matter of fact, I did this entire video all on my MacBook Pro and never once did I have any issues. 4K 60 frames per second works marvelously on this MacBook Pro. Although gaming isn't exactly Apple's forte and there are much better options to game on a laptop, the MacBook Pro is probably not the best choice, although it is capable of gaming. You can do it, but you probably get some drop frames, and last thing you want is lag whenever you get clapped on Fortnite, bro, believe me. Not to mention that the SSD in the MacBook Pro is the best in the industry. One of the things that was kind of a low blow is that only last month, Apple very quietly updated the MacBook Pro. No, it wasn't an overhaul or a traditional update. Rather, they gave us options to include Vega graphics cards, and that low-key made me upset, man. Like, Apple, so many of us spent a fortune on these devices. You couldn't have told us, bruh, Vega options on the come up, just wait. But no, you didn't tell anyone. And it's not like I can just hit up an Apple store and swap it out and pay a small difference. Nah, they gonna want me to trade my current MacBook Pro and give me 80 bucks for it and make me buy a brand new one. No thank you. Wish I could have the option to upgrade the graphics card when I purchased it. It doesn't really make that big of a difference, but when you're video editing, I mean, you just want a really good graphics card, and I really wish I could have been given that option when purchasing it. I definitely would have upgraded to Vega graphics, but alright, whatever, you know, I'm over that. I'm not salty no more. The hard drive speed is incredibly fast. You have no idea. It might be the reason why Apple charges you a kidney to upgrade it, but hey, let Apple do Apple. The touch bar. I remember in 2016 when the MacBook Pros had the redesign, I went into an Apple store and was so interested in the touch bar, like, what the hell is this, man? It seems so fascinating, but even then I thought to myself, I wonder how much use this actually has. It really is a hit or miss with a lot of people. The majority of people would say this is gimmicky, and in a way it is. Like, I see where people are coming from, but at the same time it does have some useful features to it. I like using it on iMessage for the emojis, man. Don't lie to me. One of the reasons some of y'all get iPhones in the first place is because of the emojis. You ain't fooling no one. Like, it just makes your text messaging that much more exciting and just adds another layer of depth and coolness to it. I don't know. I also like to use it on Word documents because you easily have the bold or underline button as well as the highlighter to emphasize parts of my notes for the upcoming test. Like, if you use native applications like Logic Pro and Final Cut, it'll be very useful as you can scrub through projects straight from your touch bar and makes your work more productive in some instances. But again, I wish we had an option to choose between wanting the touch bar or not. Instead, they kind of just force it down our throats. Some people will never use the touch bar ever, and it's a bummer knowing you're paying for hardware you will never use. It's a highly argumentative topic. My stance on the touch bar is that it's not entirely that useless. I just think Apple can do a lot more with it. Another big internal change is now the addition of the T2 chip. This not only improves Siri, as now you can activate Siri hands-free with your voice by saying the magical phrase. In addition, it also supposed to safeguard your MacBook like never before, encrypting your SSD and also having a secure boot up process. This may be one of the biggest reasons why the internal storage, the SSD, is lightning fast. For all my fellow college students, you want to know about battery, right? While it's not as long as a MacBook Air's killer battery, it still does a wonderful job at staying powered on throughout the day to help you get through all your basic tasks. Apple's website claims it'll give you about 10 hours, and yep, it lives up to just about that hype. Of course, while video editing and browsing the web simultaneously, I may get 4 to 5 hours, but that's to be expected when you're putting such a huge load on the processor. You don't really have to worry about it dying unexpectedly on you, as in my experience, the battery on it is phenomenal. Just one piece of advice, make sure to adjust your settings. It sounds obvious, but turn down that brightness, bruh. If you're not using Bluetooth, turn that off. Make sure automatic graphic switching found in system preferences is enabled, and make sure to fully close applications that consume a lot of power. Take a look at your activity monitor here and there to pinpoint which applications use up the most power. I have zero complaints with the battery. Just make sure you adjust your settings. If you have your keyboard light on, or if you have your display on to max brightness, you're obviously not gonna get anywhere near those 10 hours that Apple advertises. Let's cut to the chase though. After the aforementioned specs and thoughts on the MacBook Pro, would I want to recommend this to everyone? Well, that is probably one of the biggest cons to the MacBook Pro. The price is a little ridiculous. Base model 2018 Touch Bar 15-inch will run you $2,399. That will get you an okayish car that will drive you from point A to point B. Let me start off by saying if you want to stunt as a college student and just use your computer for web surfing, taking notes on Word, and the occasional PowerPoint presentation, don't do it, bruh. It will be extremely overpriced for what you will want it to do. Instead, pick up a 12-inch MacBook if that is all you're going to be doing. Seriously, with the benchmarks and power behind this device, the Pro moniker really lives up to my expectations. Amazing specs, and in actuality is aimed at creative professionals, DJs, photographers, video editors. Rejoice! This device will make your work and your life extremely easy. Using Photoshop, Final Cut, and Logic on here is a breeze. I'd recommend it to anyone needing it for basically their job as a creative professional. I know $2,500 after tax is a tough pill to swallow. Really consider your option and ask yourself what you'll be using it for. Another one of my complaints is the dongle madness that Apple created with the computer. 4 Thunderbolt 3 points and a 3.5mm jack is all you're getting. The block your USB Type-A plugins won't work, so there's a dongle. SD card reader, dongle. Gigabit Ethernet, dongle. It's a little absurd, and on a pro device, it should already be integrated into the hardware. That's what I'm saying, man. On the last sour note is that the MacBook Pro does run a little warm. Safari and Microsoft Word aren't typically too overbearing, but start opening the Gram, YouTube, video editing, maybe Logic, and iMessage pulled up, and you'll start to notice the bottom of the MacBook starts to get a little hot. But aside from that, the computer's fantastic. I adore my MacBook Pro. It really is a beast and can handle just about everything I throw at it, despite its small compact size for the performance it gives. Of course, it is a laptop after all, and the chassis limits what you can do on it. And yeah, Apple has had their blunders with the i9 overheating and the keyboards, but I feel like things are being ironed out, and the MacBook Pro is a must get for anyone looking to use a laptop for their demanding work life. I would say, if you're video editing, consider upgrading to the 32 gigabytes of RAM and definitely upgrade the storage. 256 gigs is basically mocking you, you'll regret it later. I'm not saying go for 4 terabytes, I mean unless you got $3,000 laying around, but 512 gigs should be the minimum you should want to get if you're considering using your MacBook Pro for creative situations like video editing or if you're a photographer. But hey man, you do you. If you just need a capable laptop for that what if I need more power later situation, and you have racks on racks on racks, then by all means hand over your debit card, man. It's no shade here, but for the average consumer, a MacBook Air should handle just about everything you need. Well guys, that's been my review on the MacBook Pro. This really is one of my all-time favorite Apple devices. I use my MacBook Pro just about every day, and when I was an undergraduate, my MacBook Pro went with me everywhere. So if you're considering getting one, you will not look back. The MacBook Pro is amazing. It is so powerful. It's so beautiful, and you will more than likely have it for years and years and years to come. Definitely check out my other videos. Follow me on all my social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and also there is still a giveaway for AirPods. So if you still haven't joined, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what it was that you got for Christmas or what you would have wanted for Christmas. It's really simple. By doing that, you enter into the giveaway for the AirPods, and a winner will be chosen once the channel reaches 1,000 subscribers. We are so close. I love putting out this content for you guys. I know I was on a small little hiatus. I was just enjoying my time with my family, but baby, I'm back. So with all that being said, really hope you enjoyed this review. I now have the 12-inch MacBook, MacBook Air, and now this MacBook Pro review, so hopefully this can give you a good idea of which one to get. Catch you guys in the next one.